What's up, everyone? My name is Will, and welcome to the show. In this audio experience podcast, I'm going to tell you 10 tips to thrive and succeed at life as an introvert. These are 10 secrets that I have developed through studying all the books on introversion, all the TED Talk videos on the topic, diving into some scientific literature as well, and really going into detail and consulting the experts, because this is something that I've struggled with, or at least it seemed that way. So obviously I'm an introvert, I'm shy. If you've seen my YouTube videos, if you've seen my writing or you listen to my podcast, I've alluded to the fact that I am a shy nerd. In fact, I am a lot more shy than I even thought I am. In my head, I think I have a bit of an ego. I think I'm this really cool, unique snowflake who's maybe even outspoken. But even very recently, a lot of people who have met me, they will mention that when they first saw me or talked to me, I was shy. And it's definitely been a huge stumbling block in terms of developing any type of relationship with anyone, because it never goes any further because, if you're too shy to initiate, you don't really develop a relationship if they don't talk to you first. And especially when you're average or invisible like I am and you kind of just blend into the crowd, people don't end up talking to you. There's even been a lot of studies done on this, scientific studies, that reveal that people who are introverted or shy tend to have less sexual experiences, less romantic experiences, less friends, and so forth. And I guess that makes sense. The less people you talk to, the less chance you have to develop a relationship. So it's been proven statistically. So it is tough, and I'm sure, if you're an introvert, maybe you're feeling the pain like I am. It's frustrating. Maybe you even get really angry sometimes, or just really frustrated, maybe a bit resentful because you're not getting anywhere, or you're not getting where you want to go. And it doesn't have to only do with relationships or dating. I mean, this spans to career advice as well, career and workplace advice. If you're not speaking up enough and saying what needs to be said, you could be missing out on important points that are that could benefit the company you work for, the whole team you do. And if you're overpowered by an extrovert, it can be tough because they tend to have no problems saying whatever they want to. And I've experienced this in the past, whether it was some English class where you're supposed to contribute, or something else, maybe career related, where you're just overpowered by people who love to talk, and all their ideas, or most of them, are really dumb and they're not really that useful. And then you have this one or two ideas that are really game changing, but you're afraid to speak up. And then when you finally are about to speak up and you've racked up the courage, time's up, or you get overpowered or interrupted again. So these are just a few frustrations and struggles out of the many out there in a extrovert dominated society. And there's a lot of stuff I want to talk about on this. If you're listening to this, you probably speak English, and the Western Hemisphere is dominated undeniably by an extrovert praising culture, someone who is not scared of being the center of attention and praised for doing so. Whereas the Eastern Hemisphere, the Asian culture, is very different. The Japanese way of life, the Asian way of life, those who are quiet and pensive and don't talk much are seen as wise. Those who talk too much are seen as fools, and those who are introverted and shy and really think before they speak are really revered and respected. And it's almost flipped in the Western Hemisphere, which can kind of be tough. So I want to give you some tips. Let's just get started. Number one, the first secret is realize that you are not as alone as you think. I think this is definitely something that most introverts believe. They think they're in the minority, they're 1 in 100, and they're this outcast, and nothing is like them. But there's been quite a few very, very large studies done on large amounts of people. There's this one study done that found that 49.3% of people are extroverts. So, in fact, we are in the majority. Believe it or not. So if you want to look up the exact study because you don't believe me, the study was done in 1998 on a national representative sample. It was a very large study, and this was across the entire United States of America. And the source of it was was from Myers-Quenk, that's spelled Quenk, Hammer. And it was from the MBTI manual, which was a guide to the development and use of the Myers-Briggs type indicator, which is a popular personality type assessment. Specifically, they found that 49.3% of people were introverts. Were extroverts, and 50.7%, obviously, were introverts. And the people were assessed was a fairly even split of male-female, 45. Of those male, 45.9% were extrovert and 54.1% is introvert, which is stunning because that means that for males, introverts are in the majority. For females, the split was 52.5% were extroverts and 47.5% were introverts. So in this case, there's a small discrepancy, but not much, where there was more extroverted females than extroverted introverts. And then there's another study done that found something very similar. So keep that in mind. Think about it. There's a lot of people who are really successful introverts. There's Bill Gates, richest man in the world by far, introvert. Stephen Hawking, he has a whole quote on this called "A quiet mind is the loudest." And then there's plenty of people who are introverted by nature and have had their creative expression really change the world. There's artists like Vincent van Gogh. There's musicians like Beethoven. And the list goes on and on. I think people don't give enough credit to introverts, and they just assume that they're, beneath us, which is just completely wrong, and a huge opportunity to really get behind people that others are discrediting but have more potential than others give credit for. I look for opportunities like that, whether it's someone who looks poor but maybe rich, or someone who is from an ethnic background that people assume or don't have as much potential. Those are opportunities I look for because most people are going to look over them, and they could be the next superstar. So I really, really think that it's a huge opportunity. Don't discount the introverts. Tip number 2, I highly encourage you to partner with someone who is extroverted. So this is more business and career focused, but it is really important. If you look at all of these successful introverts, they had a whole team behind them. Richard Branson says, a business is simply a team of people after a singular goal. And when it comes to doing well as a career or business, partner with people who have skill sets in the areas you lack. Maybe you're not the best socially and you're not good at networking and talking to big crowds or speaking up. But maybe there are people who are, and maybe they can do that for you, and you can work together and partner, and they can be the frontline person and you can be the guy working behind the scenes and really getting the work done and the strategy and the technical stuff. And many businesses have succeeded by doing that. There's so many examples from startup to multi-billion-dollar public companies who have done that. And here's a podcaster that you probably know very well, Gary Vaynerchuk. He often talks about this in his podcasts and YouTube videos. He mentions a lot about how you should not discount an introvert. You should not see it as a weakness. You should see it as a strength, and there's great potential behind it. Don't discount yourself because you see successful people who are extroverts and you assume that's the only way you have to be. You don't have to lie or change your complete personality to become an extrovert. It's just that you have to leverage your strengths and then partner with people who are good to go. Number 3, the third thing I want to tell you is realize that there's a difference between shyness and introversion. So let me explain. I was at this meetup of people who had bought products from Ramit Sethi. Ramit Sethi is an online internet entrepreneur in the career development space. And I was at this meetup, and it's first time meeting up people who were around a similar themes of personal development. And there really weren't many live meetups that did something like that. I drove quite a while to meet these people, and I was really shy and quiet. It's sometimes tough for me to like initiate and talk to people first. So I was just kind of there, and I noticed this one guy who was even shyer than me. Like, he didn't talk. He was super quiet, never initiated. And I just kind of wanted to have him open up and be part of the conversation because I felt like he was missing out. So I tried to get him to open up. I said a few things, asked him a few questions, and I finally threw something at him that I thought he would bite at. And this fishhook bit hard. What I mean by this was I started talking about introversion and my struggles with it and how to get over it and the books that I've read about it. And I did that intentionally because I knew he was probably introverted and maybe he would really take interest to the topic. And it worked a little too well. He actually started getting mad at me and started being very outspoken and almost yelling. And he started talking about how there's a difference between shyness and introversion. The point of the story is that he was right. I did some research, and there is a huge difference. So introversion, officially defined, is simply drawing strength and energy from being alone. And extroversion is simply drawing energy from other people, being around other people. And you get more energized and enjoy life more when you're around other people and you're socializing. In that sense, I'm actually not an introvert because, I kind of am. I do love my alone time and I do recharge when I'm alone about 60% of the time. But there's a really good chunk, 40% of the time, where I'm technically an extrovert in the sense that if I don't talk to anyone, I get sometimes depressed and sometimes I get really lonely if I don't have human contact or really deep connections with people. And I think almost every human is like that. So in that sense, these technical definitions I don't think really matter. I think the mainstream public, if you were to watch BuzzFeed, they describe an introvert as shyness. They misinterpret the word introvert as shyness. So technically, these technical definitions, they don't really matter because as far as we're concerned, the general public defines an introvert as what is really should be defined as shyness. And the official definition of shyness is someone who is fearful or reticent or scared or quiet or passive in social interactions with groups of people or one-on-one. And there could be many reasons for this. Fear of rejection, past trauma with rejection, embarrassment, anxiety, judging yourself, and so on and so forth. And the point is that I was able to hone in on the real roots of my issue. Those were it was shyness. The shyness was the real issue that I was struggling with and so forth from a technical definition of the term. And that really helps because then you can really, once you focus in on what's actually wrong, you can start fixing it better rather than have some broad, vague sense of what the heck is going on. So that moves me on to tip number 4. And this one is to reframe. So I've definitely been experimenting with this a lot. I'm definitely shyer depending on what I'm struggling with. So if it's just some guy or some girl who's really old, like an old lady, or someone who I'm not attracted to at all, maybe she's really overweight, I'm not that shy. But then there are situations where I'm really deathly shy. And this is why I'm categorized as shy to most people. Anyone who is even just average, who is a young lady around my age, I freeze up on an unconscious level. And of course, you can imagine how paralyzing this can be. And so, in that sense, for you, if you're struggling with something similar, you want to identify specifically what area, what type of people you're struggling with, and then reframe it. So rather than think to yourself and have a goal in your mind, and you're probably unconsciously doing this, of, oh my goodness, if I talk to this person, they're going to reject me. You have already put a frame on it as if, oh, this is an interaction where it's about rejection or not rejection. You should change your goals, and by doing so, you change it into something that is less intimidating, lower or no risk, no repercussions, and a lot easier. So there's only a few goals that I focus on. One is to meet new people, and that's very easy to master. When your only goal is to meet new people, you can't lose at that unless you don't talk to anyone and you don't introduce yourself, which is tough to do. And that completely reframes it. You're completely out of the thinking sphere of, oh, if I talk to this person, I'll get rejected and so forth. And that works really well for me because for my type of shyness, and again, you'll notice there's many different variations. For my type of shyness, it's really about if I talk to anyone, I will be found out that I'm hitting on her, or I'll be misinterpreted that I am hitting on this girl, even if I'm not. If I talk to a girl my age and I am just talking to them about the weather, it will be misinterpreted that way, and everything will go wrong from there, and the rejection will be so humiliating and blah, blah, blah. And I build that up in my head, and it just becomes horrendous. So by reframing it into just, I am going to meet new people, it helps. Now, is it some miracle cure? No. You want to test out and figure out what works for you. For me, I found it works, but then you don't develop any relationships from there. If you're just like, hi, I'm Will, what's your name? They'll say their name, and then likely they'll never say anything else, and they'll go on their day, and that really doesn't develop into any type of real social interaction. Believe me, especially if you're really shy like I am, trust me, it happens. I've seen it a lot from real world experience. So that alone is just one reframe that can help, but may not do it. So the next reframe is, I'm here to have fun. So by doing that, your goal is simply to have fun. And I would even go so far as to say, have fun with others. Again, I'm getting these reframes from the book Mate. I think they actually changed the name of the book to What Women Want. It's a very scientific book on dating. I've mentioned it a few times on previous podcasts. Really good for improving your social and emotional intelligence, even if you're not into dating per se. But overall, a great book. A lot of science to back it up. So try reframing it that way. I'm here to have fun with others. And in that way, those rejection fears get out of the way. Again, not the best reframe if you're really trying to engage socially. I've learned it's good, but if you're super deathly shy like I am, you can have fun with other people without having to speak with them. And again, you can fall into that crutch. It's still a really good reframe, but not the best. So that's the second one I use. The third one, once you've mastered the first two, is I'm here to introduce myself and meet new people. I'm here to have fun with others. And here's the kicker, I'm here to find something interesting about someone else. So by doing this, you actually kickstart the conversation. And at some point, all these reframes, they help, but you eventually have to man up and start talking and using fundamental conversation skills. I've done a YouTube video on this, and there's plenty of articles on how to keep a conversation flowing. And there's all these tips and tactics on how to do so. Like if they were to talk about the weather, then you can talk about your experience, their experience, your opinion, and what you wish were to be done. So it's experience, opinion, wish. So my experience with the weather, I've had bad experiences with the weather and good ones. Your opinion, I like tropical weather. And as you can see, you can constantly keep the conversation flowing by using tactics like this. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The last reframe I want to mention is, and I think this is maybe the most powerful, I'm here to see if I connect with other people. And it's not about, I'm here to get rejected or not, or I'm here to put myself out there and get rejected. It's about, I'm here to see if I'm compatible with this other person. Do we have similar interests? Do we not? Can we keep a conversation going? Can we become friends? So it's more of a platonic friendship type thing. And when you reframe it like this, the barriers to entry, the risk, the fear, the rejection, they disappear because you're not there to put yourself in such a situation. And it's still a good reframe to get you out of your extreme shyness and really get you to start talking and interacting with other people. So I think this is really useful to anyone. Even extroverts get shy sometimes in more intimidating business or networking situations. So these are very useful tips for these people as well to improve their soft skills and social intelligence. So I want to move on to number 5. The 5th secret or tip for introverts is start slow and use baby steps. I think, there's different things that work for different skill sets. For something else, I would give the tip to jump into the pool and just get yourself wet and just go 0 to 100 really quickly. To use a pool analogy, I used to swim and compete on a local level, and usually the pool would be ice cold compared to how hot it was. And there's 2 ways of doing it. You could jump in immediately and you would be completely drenched, but your body would adjust in a few seconds. Or you can really slowly put your toe in the water and then slowly, gradually sink yourself in. For different skill sets, I would choose different things. But for being an introvert or being shy, I highly recommend a gradual process. I've tried the 0 to 100 method of jumping in, and it really didn't work. This was many years ago when I was younger and very naive and really struggling with social skills. And I turned to the pickup artists online because that was all that was out there in terms of good social skill advice. And it didn't work. They told me, you just have to go crazy. There's one set of pickup artists, Simple Pickup. They're a big YouTube channel. And there's a few others. And they just told me, just got to keep approaching and approaching. And it really just didn't work out. It took me a lot of work to work up the courage to do it. And when I finally did and ended up doing it consistently, it was the toughest thing ever and almost traumatic in a sense where I had to approach all these people and then get rejected off the bat. And after doing this so many times, I never really got anywhere. And on top of that, I was almost traumatized to a sense where I was even more shy afterwards. Probably because now I had it in my mind that, these people don't like me. When in reality, likely, it had to do with the fact that I was doing these extreme approaches where I would kind of, go straight for the kill and ask if they like me or not without them even getting a real chance to know me beyond the superficial of what they see. And again, my strengths don't lie in the superficial. I'm a smart person and I have a personality, but I'm not the best looking guy. I'm definitely not the best dressed guy. So it was very stacked against me and I wasn't playing to my strengths. So in that sense, I highly recommend a gradual approach. Start by talking to people you're not intimidated by. Old ladies, young kids, overweight women you're not attracted to at all. And then slowly build. Maybe you talk to people at the mall or your waitress and they slowly get closer to your age. Maybe they're young moms, or maybe they are your age, but you know you wouldn't ever have a chance with them because they're servers, or they live across the country, or they're just way out of your league. Whatever it is, you just keep working slowly towards the type of people or women, or maybe their bosses or intimidating business leaders, whatever it is that you are intimidated by. Sixth tip or secret, whatever you want to call it, tip or secret. Leverage your listening skills. So play to your strengths. Introverts are better listeners usually than extroverts who like to talk a lot. And listening is a very critical skill for emotional intelligence, empathy, social intelligence, and salesmanship. So don't throw away your listening skills. Sometimes it pays to just be quiet and listen. You don't have to go from one extreme to the other extreme like a pendulum. Number 7. 7 is leverage your attention to detail. Introverts, there's been tests done on this, neurological tests, the pattern identification test. Introverts often are really good at identifying detail and numerical detail or creative detail. Find out how you can leverage that in your job or career or your workplace, or even with your spouse. Maybe it's, you probably don't have a spouse yet, but maybe it's a specific girlfriend or boyfriend. Find out what they like. Maybe they just casually mentioned that they really like seeing Broadway musicals. Maybe buy a ticket for Hamilton for them. Those are the small details that the extroverts, that the other people will miss, that will pay dividends, because they'll think of you as that thoughtful guy that other people refuse to be thoughtful for. And of course, thoughtfulness is really important from the evolutionary side of dating, because guess what? People who are thoughtful are more caring fathers and partners, which is a key thing biologically that women look for in partners. So I believe that was 7. The 8th secret to leveraging your introvert powers to be even better is to leverage your ability to learn from mistakes. This was a very interesting study that I learned from reading one of the introvert books. And I'll mention all the books that I've read on introversion for further reading at the end of this podcast. But essentially the study was very simple. It was a pattern recognition study. And what they found, long story short, was that introverts, when they made a mistake, they would learn from it and get better. But what they found with the extroverts was that rather than getting better after a mistake, they got worse after a mistake, because they refused to believe that it was a mistake, and they sped up rather than slowed down and made more mistakes. So introverts, by that sense, it's a big generalization. I mean, it's just introvert versus extrovert. So maybe there are subsections of extroverts who are, thoughtful as well. Take that study with a grain of salt. I'm not saying that extroverts are horrible people or constantly make mistakes, but that's kind of what the study implies. So I recommend that you really try and leverage that in your work, because that is a strength that you may have that extroverts may not have. Try and use that to really stand out in your work. Really figure out how can you use this to deliver better results, to get that raise or promotion, or really just to stick out from the pack and get someone else to talk to you because of all the good work you're doing. And build, you can build that reputation. Even online nowadays, you could set up a blog or a LinkedIn blog and really show your attention to detail and your lessons learned. And you can build up an online reputation, which may help with your jobs. I mean, technically, that's partially what I'm doing. But I'm more doing it for a hobby standpoint with podcasts and with my blog. Number 9. This one's huge. Mindfulness meditation. So this goes into the studies done by Dr. Kalakowski. There's a lot of very recent studies in the last 5 years on mindfulness meditation, and they found that proper mindfulness meditation and objectively recognizing and being more aware of your emotions has been incredibly helpful for really identifying and coming to terms and overcoming your anxiety. You're bound to have anxiety if you're shy, and essentially what mindfulness meditation does is you accept the anxiety rather than push it away. And by doing so, studies have shown that you become less anxious because you accept them rather than push them away and make them worse. And you accept them as they are. You objectively notice and are aware of all the emotions and behaviors you feel. And by doing that, you can step into it and perform better. So there's been quite a few studies done on this. And again, I will reference all the further recommended reading. It's not recommended, but optional reading that you can do if you want to verify the studies that I am citing. Finally, number 10, if you really want to do better socially, it's more than just showing up. Showing up is one part of it that most introverts don't do. They stay stuck in their room. But showing up on its own, I mean, there's that quote that like 90% of success is showing up. I think it's BS because I've showed up to a lot of social events, and just showing up is not enough. It's about really pushing that comfort zone slowly but gradually. And that's why my 10th tip is to have specific goals that you remind yourself of when you get there. For me, they have to be measurable goals that push me forward, that are outside my comfort zone, because there's been countless networking events and social events where I showed up and I forgot to have a goal, and I left and I realized I didn't talk to anyone, or I only talked to 1 or 2 people, and I didn't accomplish anything because I was so caught up in the nerves of just showing up, or I forgot that I even needed a goal. And I just kind of did my own thing, or just got too carried away with my goal of having fun. And I just started kicking myself afterwards because I was like, I just spent 2 hours at this social event. I didn't meet as many people as I wanted to. I didn't meet any girls, blah, 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 blah. So for me, my goal nowadays is I want to meet at least 2 new women and have some form of fun at the event and see if I connect with these people and find out something interesting about them. And if I don't have a specific goal like that, which I often forget, it ends up becoming really crappy. It's just like, I mean, it's a decent, I'm still moving forward. I'm engaging and practicing my social skills, but like at the end of the day, I walk out of it feeling like I didn't really do any of it. And when you've done that like 100 times or 50 times and it's 2 years have passed, it really is frustrating and you see no progress or very little progress. So come in there with a goal. Showing up alone is not enough. Now I just want to touch on the 3 books that I recommend. I think it's 4 books actually. One is What Women Want by Tucker Max and Dr. Geoffrey Miller. That's number 1. 2 is a book called Single, Shy, and Looking for Love, a dating guide for the shy and socially anxious by Dr. Shannon Kalakowski, PsyD. And I recommend this book highly, even if you're not looking to improve your dating life, because this book is really about dealing with shyness and in any type of social situation, whether it's for networking or career development or just improving your social skills. The last 2 books I recommend are Quiet the Power of Introversion. That one needs no introduction. It's the most well-known book on introversion. And the last book is Introversion Power. Those are the top books on introversion and improving your introversion and leveraging it as a strength that I recommend. Thanks so much for listening to this podcast. And I highly suggest that you check out my blog, willyoulaugh.com, and join my email newsletter for my top secrets to success. I share them on my newsletter, and if you want them curated straight to your inbox, I highly recommend it. Let me know if you did sign up. Again, there's plenty of places to opt in your email address. Just once you sign up on my website, you'll see the places where you can opt in. Send me reply from any of the emails I send you, and you can ask whatever question you want, and this is exclusive to listeners of this podcast, and I will personally send a personalized response. If you want to hop on a call or a Skype conversation, or just stick with email, I will send you a personalized coaching mini session to help you with whatever struggle you're working on. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you next time.